All right, good morning and welcome to Cosmic Compass Conversations. Beginning of February 2024. Try to figure that out too. That's a whole other thing. Why don't we start with some breathing? We'll just bring ourselves here. And if you're busy, like if you're doing other things, not to worry. You can absolutely bring your awareness into your body. You don't need to close your eyes. Just notice what is around you and how things are moving in your field of awareness. All right, so whether you're going to close your eyes, I'm going to close mine. You can close your eyes, or just bring your awareness inward. You can drop in through your heart or your solar plexus, your womb space, but just bringing yourself inward. And if it's comfortable for you, just kind of dropping that awareness all the way down your legs, to your feet, to the soles of your feet. And again, if it's comfortable, feeling that earth energy coming up here for support, bringing you what you need today. We're going to breathe from this place. We're going to breathing in up through the soles of the feet. Again, invitation to expand your belly while you're breathing. And then exhaling through your mouth. And breathing in up through the soles of your feet. Expand your belly. And exhaling when you're ready. And again, feeling the earth's energy, breathing in up through the soles of your feet, expanding your belly. And exhaling when you're ready. And one more time, breathing in. And exhaling. Beautiful. I know I could stay there all day. That always feels so good, but here we are, and we're going to be together in this beautiful circle. It's really, I'm going to kind of scroll through and just look at all of you again one more time. Thank you for being here. It's so good to see so many of you I haven't seen in a while too. So thank you for joining. We have people from all over, and I just really want to celebrate that. There's been a lot of storms on the west coast of the United States. We're really glad that Ariana has extra backup internet support because not easy where she is right now. But if you would like to, before I get into pulling the cards, if you'd like to drop in the chat where you're joining from, it would probably be really great for Ariana and for me to know where you are. So if that's comfortable, and we'll just I'll kind of read through that so we can bring in that circle. And we have people from Ontario, Canada, Middle Tennessee, Wainiha, Kauai. Did I say that right? Wainiha? I don't know if I said it right. Morrow, Ohio, Southern California, Washington State, Ski, Norway. I hope I said that right. Could be Sky, but I'm not sure. Idaho, Chico, Hereford, England, San Jose, California, Pine Ridge, Florida, Bainbridge Island, Washington, driving back from North Carolina vet to Virginia Beach. Okay, safe driving. Sonoma County, which is in California. Well, that's where Ariana is. Washburn, Wisconsin, Spain. Cool. Utah. I'm in Oregon. So Ariana, we're everywhere. This is so exciting. I'm very excited. Okay, so let's pull some cards, and we're really working within the collective energy. So I say that every time, and then I pull cards that are like, oh, is that just my energy? But really, this is for everyone. So I'm going to use the Light Seers Tarot. This is what I like to use each week by Chris Ann. And here we go. We're going to just drop in. And again, this is more just to collectively the energy for the week. Is there something particular that the universe would like us to drop into, to connect with. And our first card is, not surprisingly, I should say, the moon. All right, so as always, the way this works is you get to, for yourself, tune in. What are you seeing in this card? What are you feeling? What are you noticing? What's happening for you? Each time I see one of these cards, I see something different or I feel something different. So again, we do have a new moon. This happens to be a full moon, but we have a new moon. We have the beginning of the Lunar New Year on Friday for most of us. There's an off chance that somebody is going to be Saturday, depending on where you are. The energy of the new moon is Aquarian energy. So while Aquarius is an air sign, it is the water bearer. So you do have water here. So I'm just saying a few things. I don't want to say too much, but new moon energy is very powerful energy. The day before the new moon, which would be Thursday for most of us, is a day of cleansing. It's a day of letting go. It's a day of really connecting. I'm going to come back to next week. I'm going to talk a little more astrology, but today I think I will just focus on the new moon and the beginning of this new year, this lunar year. And a lot of you know it's a dragon year, a wood dragon year. So I'll talk more about that next week, but starting with the moon. All right. And again, everything you feel is what really matters. And in the follow-up email, and if you're not on my mailing list already, drop me a note in the chat, or you can email me later. I can put my email in and I'll make sure you get the follow-up email. I'll put in what Chris Ann has to say. She's the creator of the cards. But again, it's really, what is this, how this speaks to you, that matters to me. I think that really, it's what I would like to bring into the circle. So, all right, second card. All right, so we go from that to not one of my favorite cards, but I want to just point out that there's always some important message that wants to come through. This is a Three of Swords. And for those of you that know the tarot, you may have, that's fine if you know what the quote unquote meaning is. But again, I think it's important to look, the art in these cards is very profound. And I could have chosen a different deck, but I really do love this deck. What are you noticing? What are you feeling? One of the reasons why I love her writing is because even when we're dealing with these shadow elements, which I don't think I'm giving much away by sharing that. Even when we're dealing with these shadow elements, Chris Ann has a way of really creating affirmations that really support our healing journey. So remember that wherever you find yourself in this card, or whatever you feel or sense, the healing energy is what we're really truly tuning into. So, and then for those of you, I know for some of you, this is like on repeat all the time. Angeles Arian's Tarot Handbook is my favorite book for really going deep into looking at some of the source of the meaning of the cards, some of the psychology, and some of the soul work. Angeles Arian is no longer with us on the planet, but she was a fabulous teacher, and it wouldn't surprise me if Ariana knew her, but anyway, I knew it. I knew it. Okay, we're getting to that later. I had a feeling. Yes, Ariana and I, we're like soul friends who just found each other in this lifetime. I'm so happy. Okay, more on that as we get there. Okay, all right. I will put the book in the chat. Yes. All right. So last card. Wow. Here we go. We're on quite a journey this week. The 10 of Cups. And again, what do you see? What do you feel? What do you notice? Each time I look at these cards, and it's interesting too, because on the screen, they're a little magnified for me, so I can see new things. Yeah, I'm noticing something different today that I haven't seen before. So what do you feel? What do you notice? What's happening here? And for anyone who, again, knows the tarot, there is a meaning to this card that is traditional, but I think, again, wow. Okay, I'm just making a note in this moment that I don't think we just had an earthquake, but something just happened. That was a little interesting. Something bumpy in the earth. I think Ariana, the earth is saying, get on with it. I want to talk to Ariana. I want her to talk about it. Okay. All right. So, those are our cards. I'll follow up in an email. I'll put my email, I'll also put the name of that book in the chat if you want all of that. And I'll do that in a minute. But first, I really want to bring on our very special guest this morning. Oh, thank you, Judy. That was very nice. Ariana Mazzucchi. And do you like me to call you Ariana Strozzi Mazzucchi? How would
Uh,
you like to introduce you?
it's such a funny thing, Denise. The name thing has always been like a deeper controversial conversation.
Of course, that's what we do here, right?
When I was little, I was like, I was the only one named Ariana, so I thought I could be like Cher, just be first name, it would all be fine, you know. So not anymore. So anyway,
Well, we'll call you Ariana for today.
Ariana Mazzucchi's fine. I'm very wedded to my husband, Casey
Okay.
Mazzucchi. So
Okay. Mazzucchi, not Mazzucchi. Mazzucchi.
yeah, so yeah, Mazzucchi, Strozzi
Okay.
is Strozzi, but Mazzucchi is, yeah, Mazzucchi.
Okay. I got it right. So for everyone, this is Ariana Mazzucchi, and she is here with us. And you know from the email, and some of you know her already, so you already know how awesome she is. But Ariana has studied many things in life, but all of them have and taught and continues to teach and write and create. And I mean, there's books and there's so much creativity that flows through you, Ariana. You are truly an example of that life force energy. And I think what I want to say in terms of my own introduction is Ariana and I met first on Zoom because we were presenters at the summit. And so we were just, meeting as a group at that time, but then we met in person at the summit. And one of the things that I shared with Ariana, and I'll share with all of you now, is that when I listened to the podcast that Warwick did with Ariana, it up to a certain point, it was like we were the same person. If the things that Ariana was describing, I was like, wait a minute, that happened to me. And it was the most awesome thing to hear you, Ariana, just speak about some of the early childhood experiences and ways of being and ways of feeling and ways of connecting. And then of course the divergence happened when with horses, because we moved away from the place where I could have had the horses. And so that path didn't happen for me. But Ariana also went to a university that I was planning to go to, which is very interesting because we would have crossed over. We would have been there at the same time, except that, and once again, my path diverged because I got a scholarship to another college and I went that direction. So it's fascinating to me that, I mean, we didn't grow up that far from each other either, at least in terms of geography. So anyway, thank you for being here. I admire your work. I admire the path and the journey that you've been on because it is real. You have brought something into the world and continue to bring more into the world that is profoundly needed, particularly at this time. And so one of the things that I like to do when we're having these conversations is let you share what is on your heart and what is of importance to you, because your past is full of rich stories. But I'd like you to share what's important to you right now.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I always love hearing that story of how we kind of
Yeah.
we knew each other in Ethernet,
Yeah.
and the horses are with you, so
Good
spirit
point.
horse has always been with you, so they
Yeah.
don't have
Thank
to be in
you.
physical form.
Yeah.
Yeah, which no accident that they brought us together. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Thank you so much for saying that. I love that. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and actually the cards kind of speak right into it, so that's kind of interesting for me. And so here I am for all of you thinking ahead, what do I want to talk about? And then I'm thinking, well, what I want to talk about, maybe not everybody wants to hear. And then going, well, there's probably a reason we need to talk about it anyway. So how do I talk about it?
Mhm.
And for those of you that don't know me, I'm sort of I'm an optimist. I'm an extreme optimist. I just always turn challenges into opportunities. That's just the way I like to play the world. So in my life. And so while you were reading the cards, actually, even before, actually it was just the first card. So, and for all of you too, I don't read tarot. I don't know what, yeah, it's a beautiful card, right? I want to know that, ladies. I'm making a deck of cards. So I was asking Denise the other day, like, if she knows of some good cards that I, just use to spur my imagination. So those, and I like those. I love good illustration too. Um, so anyway, I don't know anything about tarot. Okay. I don't know what a 10 of cups is and all that kind of stuff. But this is what was happening to me during the cards, which is exactly where I've been wanting to talk about. And this is a new conversation.
Mhm.
Um, in a way, it's an old conversation,
Mhm.
but it's coming in new at this time. And I'll explain more as I
Yeah.
go. But really, the first card, I wrote down the Earth Warrior Awaken. And then you had said the earth, so the earth was speaking to me.
Right.
And I know I've been in the conversation with earth for a long time, earth whisperer, but the earth, and talking about earth warrior, I don't like the word warrior, but for now it's, the defender, the protector, right? The steward of the earth. So let's think of it that way. And that it's time for the, us earth warrioresses to awaken. And that has been what's been on my mind. So it pulled it out. And then on that card, the moon card, the dark and the light. And after that first card, I wrote, how do we embrace the light and the dark?
Mhm.
Some people see, and really in my work with horses, and what horses teach me is that we're the judgmental animal, we're the moral animal. So we see things as right or wrong. So sometimes we think that light is good and dark is bad.
Mhm.
And if we could shift away from those labels,
Mhm.
because when we see something as bad, then we become
Yeah.
afraid of it.
Yes.
Anything can be used poorly.
Yes.
Light can be used poorly, so can dark.
Mhm.
So, um, a spur can be a nice, just accent, and it can be a harsh tool. I know
Yes.
a lot of you are horse people. So our voice can be um, light and it can be dark. It can be misused. It can cause tremendous trauma, just our voice and the tone of our voice. So I really I live in the world of energy and the quality and the tone of energy. So I want to open that up to us, that cause this is what's up. Okay. And I'm in all the work that I'm doing with other people and what I'm seeing in my own earth meditations, et cetera, and so on is, okay, let's not be afraid of the dark, but it is time to get our head out of the sand. We have been spending years, um, through the COVID times, um, with that sort of social timeout and a lot of timeout, right? And it was a time to really think about things and who are you and what do you care about,
Mhm.
and to see where your light and your dark parts
Yes.
are, right?
Yes.
And so I'm, drafting my own little newsletter right now that I haven't pushed the go button for usual technical difficulties. And so, but it's really like I'm saying, so I've, been a student practitioner and teacher of leadership for 30 years. And actually that's where I met Angela Sarian. I've I had her I used to hold uh, international leadership conferences way back when, before the horse conferences, and she was a guest, and
Ah, yeah,
and I adored her, and so wise, and just being in her presence, I just feel like I gleaned a lot. And then her body of work in its own self was very similar, so obviously our
yeah,
values and what we believed in and what we saw possible were very much the same. We were saying the same thing in slightly different words
yeah.
and from a different angle. I was saying it through horse and she was saying it through, I didn't even realize that she was cards, but she has that other,
Yeah, the four paths or the
yeah, yeah. And
four
Steve
ways, I
and,
think. Yeah.
Joseph Campbell's work as well,
Yes,
sort of
yes, yes,
the heroine's journey. Here we are,
yes,
the
yes.
earth hero, the earth warrior's heroine,
Yeah.
awaken.
Mhm.
And so I've been stirring with, okay, and somebody like Hallie, who's known me for many, many years. So for many years it was leadership in horses, and it's been saying it wants to come back. So I've been like, okay, but how do I do that? Because a lot of people see the word leadership as a very negative, dark-sided word.
Interesting.
They
Okay.
see leadership as a top-down,
Mm-hmm.
dominant subordinate.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be more than, better than, smarter than. That means somebody has to be lesser than. It's so not true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
That is a very misguided
Mm-hmm.
human concept of leadership. Leadership is just an instinct that social animals, horses and humans are social animals, that how they need to negotiate and communicate with each other in order to help the whole survive. Okay.
Yes.
That's really, so we're going to change the definition right now, because I don't like the word. I went through a period, 20 years ago, I didn't like it. What other word is there? So obviously I use the word guide. And
Mm-hmm.
so leadership could be the guide of, and the guide takes one into unknown and unexplored territory.
Right.
And that is where we are. We
Yes.
are in unknown, unexplored territory, and we could be terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also be like, okay, put your good big girl pants on, and what do I want to do about it? And you can
Exactly.
do both, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the card. Sometimes you can be down in that water and you're just in the water waiting or
Mm-hmm.
floating. And sometimes you see that bright moon coming down and shining that light going, here you are,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. So it's okay to be where you are, but nothing stays the same. So whether you're and I always use the metaphor of the ocean, obviously being very watery myself. So, and growing up in the water. So, there's the ebbs and flows. So sometimes we're in that, when it's the wave is coming up and you're sitting up there and it's just feel, and you can see everything and you want to hold on to it, but then the wave comes back down and you're down in the trough or the lull. And that's what life is, and having grace and patience with yourself wherever you are, because this too shall pass. So if you're in those sort of, let's say, what we call, darker moments where, just feeling energetically down, be okay with that. Guilt and punishment isn't going to make you feel better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know um maybe do something nourishing in that moment, but the light will come out. So the sun came out this morning for just a brief moment, and
Right.
literally,
Yeah.
Denise, right before the call, there was a huge rainbow, all the full thing. And I was like, I might have to be late to the call because I'm gonna get my phone picture. And then I was like, never
Oh
mind.
my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. So
Blessing. That's a beautiful earth blessing.
yeah. So the other piece was that also showed up in the card was the okay, the second one, right? The broken heart, whatever, you guys put it in the chat what it meant to you, the first thing you saw. I saw a storm,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the dark and the light again, like
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
extremes, and
Yeah.
then this broken heart, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the pain. And I mean, I can't imagine a person in the world who doesn't feel some pain right now with what's going
Right.
on in the world. And
Exactly. This
yeah,
seems very like normal. Like this is how we can feel when we let ourselves go there, you know?
yeah, and it's energy. So what is it doing? It's calling our attention. It's calling our awakening. And it's like, what is the earth asking of me now?
Yes.
What attention does she want? What does she need?
Yes.
Um, and the third card, the little children in the future,
Yes.
the rainbow. Oh, there's the rainbow. Like I just
There's
saw.
the rainbow. Yes. Yeah.
So And so what does the rainbow represent, right? So rainbow again is pure energy when these different energies meet. So I don't know the technical piece of it in the, what actually makes a rainbow. It's these energetic shifts and changes in the sky, right? In the airwaves that creates that. And also what creates the storm, particularly the storm that's on us right
Yes.
now. And
Mhm.
so I think that holds everything of the possibilities. And so for the possibility is um to read to this, it's just time
Mhm.
to have a sort of an honest or frank conversation with self or with others. I mean, I've been talking a lot for the last couple months about community,
Mhm.
unity, the community being with together, the importance of community. And in the picture of the rainbow, there was also a woman with dark hair and a woman with light hair, and they
Yes.
was embracing. They were embracing each other and looking over or looking to, let's say, to
Yes.
the future. So,
Yes.
um, so a big piece of that is to take some time to be with the earth and just be curious about her. Like what I mean, I think storms are kind of amazing.
Mhm.
They can be scary, but they're just such huge change shifters, and they just wipe away anything that's,
Mhm.
needs to be recycled.
Yeah.
And that's part of the nature of earth. And I don't think there's any place that stays the same, like even the ocean and the beach. How many of you are like have near water like an ocean? Raise your hand if you do.
Well, we know Tanya is because she's on Kauai. She can't really get away from the ocean.
Okay, so many of you do. See, I just think everybody knows the ocean
And
thing.
Brittany's
Knows
near the
everybody doesn't.
ocean. Yeah.
Um, but like the beach changes, and
Yes.
sometimes the beach there's a lot of sand, and sometimes these storms just take all the sand away, or what was a long walking beach is not walkable, but then time changes and then it is again. And so how, kind of how do we embrace that where the challenge is, there's also an opportunity, and to not be afraid of the dark and not to be afraid of the pain, like,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
there's pain and my heart is bleeding for, I can
Hmm.
only tolerate little snippets of, yeah, what's happening,
Hmm.
especially between people. It's
Hmm.
just atrocious. But I can feel my survival instinct to not want to get sucked down some kind of drain of hell. Sorry,
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, and I had mentioned this isn't always my favorite card, but it is so important. And this is the thing, like you were talking about with the light and the dark and the shadows and the light. We can't bypass it. We're living this. I mean, we
Yeah.
are living this. This is the feeling that comes up when we stop and we listen and we deepen, whether it's the earth speaking, or for a lot of us too, the empathic energies of all the people in the world, and we are feeling a lot of that pain. And Ariana, you and I are close in age, and so we have some similarities in our astrology, and the Chiron and Pisces generation, right, which we are a part of. That part of having Chiron and Pisces is to feel the collective energy,
Mm-hmm.
and part of it is to feel the suffering, not necessarily to take it all on. And that's, I think, part of the passages of life, right? And part of our growth is to learn how to be there to be of support without taking things on, which actually works very well with the idea of leadership. Because as you say, and I never really thought of leadership as a word that might be triggering. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think with one of the things, and I'll just share this, when I was at the summit and I went to Ariana's workshop, which by the way, I had to trade someone to get to go to Ariana's workshop because they had put us side by side at the same time. So I made a little change. I insisted. What I noticed immediately is how you begin is that creation of the circle. And that leadership isn't about being the person, like you said, up here. It's about being the person who on that day is creating the circle. And so to me, that is leadership, right? So I don't have that same trigger, but I'm really glad you brought it up because you're right. For a lot of people, particularly people who maybe have been in corporate worlds, right? Leadership might not be the greatest experience. And I haven't been in that world, so I forget.
Well, so yeah, I mean, my program was Leadership in Horses starting in 1989, and
Mhm.
in the early 2000s, I moved away from it for a while because people were just some people would be like, well, I can't take a course because I'm not a leader, and I'm like, are you alive? Like, are you breathing? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, the bottom line is, are you leading your life or is it leading you?
Mhm.
And there's not a better word right now. I mean, we try other words, but so if we can just like say, okay, to me, leadership equals relationship. That's all. It's really, how am I relating to myself? How
Mhm.
am I relating to others? And
Mhm.
how am I relating to my worldview or my values?
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes where I'm in a flow with those, and sometimes I'm not, and I need to go back to myself or go back to other. And this is in all the work, thousands and thousands of people I worked with as well.
Mhm.
And the leadership is also about followership. So there's
Mhm.
light leadership and there's dark leadership.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
those both, again, can be abused. So people can
Yeah.
have bad experiences, but we don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater in the sense of like the word leadership is bad,
Right.
because I had a bad experience. So what is its essence? Its essence is, are you leading your life or is it leading you?
Right.
And so put that in the chat, like just go, yeah, I am leading I feel, and we're going to go through changes and sometimes we're not. And it's a balance. Like we talked, about balance, that
Mhm.
there's no such thing as true balance. It's the efforting. It's
Yes.
that
And it's the
scales.
equilibrium. It's finding that and letting that equilibrium, it's going to move. You
Yeah.
use the wave example, which I think is perfect because waves, I mean, and beaches change. And if we're not right now, I don't live near the ocean. And so where I go is we go to Lithia Park in Ashland and we walk along the creek. And there's this beautiful creek and it changes every day. The equilibrium has to shift every single day in order for the water to flow and not flood, right? So, well, given the rain and everything lately, it has to find its path. And so this year is an 8 year, as you know, and a dragon year. So there's a lot of power elements for this year. And in the workshop I did at the beginning of the year, or the end of last year, and at the summit, one of the words that can be triggering for people also is power.
Yeah.
So when you put power and leadership together, we want to be able to look at that, like you said, within ourselves. Like, what is that that's coming up? So do you want to say anything about the word power while we're here?
Yeah, power is also a scary word because some people, when they were growing up, there was someone who abused their power of authority over them.
Mm-hmm.
So the person was abusing their position, their power of
Mm-hmm.
authority.
Yes.
And so then that's where we don't want to, again, throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Mm-hmm.
is collapse it all. That there are people who abuse their power, and and
Absolutely.
and who love, not just like consciously but unconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
to power over you. I have a
Yes.
book in my, the Water Calls is my latest personal journal of one woman's journey to reclaim her dignity and freedom. Like, how do I not allow
Mm-hmm.
other people to have power over me? Power is just, it's all up for interpretation.
Yes.
And so somebody popped in the chat, or the leadership in the country. So all I want to say about that is, like, I don't get into political things because it leads us down the us and them. And this is another thing I want to pull out is the systems around us are, imploding,
Mm-hmm.
exploding.
Mm-hmm.
There's intentional intent to create us and thems.
Yeah.
Because then when us and thems, then you're going to get somebody on a side and then there's going to be a fight. That's what us and them creates. And think of the leadership in our country is not leadership at all. It's a bureaucratic system. Okay. It's a management system.
Mhm.
And it has rules and orders. That's it. So leadership is like, to me, I think of Martin Luther King. Have a dream. What's your dream? What do you see possible? What do you want to change in this life? Earth warriors awaken. What's the little change you want to make, whether it's in your own little community or whether some people I know are in the political thing. I'm like, you guys handle that. Like, that's not my scene, because we all have our place.
Mhm.
Somebody I know right now is working on a concept of just providing a space. I don't want to say it out loud since she's still working on it, but brewing it, but just sort of like a place where people could come and just get sort of unconditional presence.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yes.
And so it could be, and those of us that are doing healing work, but also it's really important now. Leadership begins within, in the sense of I have to also take care. We have to take care of ourselves, or we won't be around to support others that are in a different stage of breaking. Right. So the other
Yes.
piece too, like a lot of my clients now, like I swear, I feel like I can't turn my head, without either hearing or seeing somebody else who's in a lot of pain,
Mhm.
or somebody else who's listening to somebody that's in a lot of pain. So it's
Mhm.
how many of you actually kind of start to feel a little overwhelmed by that?
Yeah,
Sometimes I do. To
I
raise
do.
your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a thing. Okay. So, and again, allowing, if we allow ourselves to feel it and just be in the moment with it, then it can pass. And
Mhm.
then here's another thing. Um, Nature's always there, and she's amazing. Like, what I learned as a breast cancer survivor from 10 years ago, knock on wood, I knew I was really addicted to stress. Okay. I
Yeah.
was really good at it. And I was really good at it, and I was addicted to it. And I knew when I got my diagnosis that was the thing I was going to have to change. And it
Mhm.
was going to be the hardest thing I was ever going to have to do. And so I also knew, how do I change? How do I know when I'm in it? Because I have to see the signs coming. It's a horse training principle I use. Like, the only way to change a horse's behavior is to make the change before we're in the breakdown.
Yes.
And it takes time to figure out what are the precursive triggers that, so
Mhm.
anyway, I was studying that. And as soon as I would notice that I was had the somatic awareness to notice that I was under stress, like maybe my heart rate, or I could
Mhm.
feel my agitation and the tension come in my body, I would drop what I was doing and I would go outside and take a walk. And the study was, how long am I going to stay stressed out when I go outside?
Yes.
And literally, I probably got about 2 blocks, and I could never track how long, because it almost disappeared, almost like within probably a minute. Uh,
Yes.
And so that's what, Earth Warriors Awaken, that's what we need now, is imagination, creativity.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of the arts have come out in what we call the dark times, like the Renaissance and the art. So
Mhm.
so there's different ways of expressing, and some people, again, express like, this is what it looks like when it's, ugly and
Mhm.
painful. And other people are going to be painting flowers and hummingbirds. And again, embracing the light in the dark, and not seeing them as um, things that as goods and bads, and learning how to trust your own self, so that when somebody is abusing their power on you, so that you're the only one that can break that cycle.
That's
Uh,
beautiful. And I understand when I look at Pluto in Aquarius. So I look at Pluto in Aquarius, and I look at how a lot of people, the relationship with Pluto, or if we were to talk about it from, like, if you look at mm, other social medias, which I won't name. Um, the idea of Pluto is that it's scary and dark, and what's going to happen, because it's about death, but it's also about rebirth, and it's about transformation, and it's about healing. And when we look at this new era that we're entering into with Pluto and Aquarius, it is exactly what you're saying, in that we're not going to bypass the things that need to change. We need to be a part of that change. And that's what we're really called into with Aquarius. The Pluto and Capricorn years, and we will have a couple months in the fall where Pluto does go back into Capricorn. Those years were very much about the breakdown of structures. And as it turns out, where we find ourselves today in this moment, at this time, is that those structures are like, no, I want to stay in power, or whatever it is, right? Like there's this holding on and grasping. But the truth is, as we move into this Aquarian time, and again, it's a 20-year transit, some of what you were talking about is really quite amazing. Aquarius actually is the ruler of, if you're gonna, I mean, maybe we want to change some of these words too, because they're kind of
Yeah. You
colonization
just don't,
words.
the more you study it, the more we realize we don't have good words. So
No, so
we have to
Aquarius,
define every word.
yes, they're part of Aquarius is poetry.
Okay.
Interesting, right? So one of there's a great book by Stephen Forrest called The Book of Pluto. And you can look at where your Pluto is, and you can look at, what's happening around us. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius, because you spoke to like, the change and the dark times and what can come out of the dark, like the Renaissance comes out of the Middle Ages, it follows the Middle Ages, and the dark times. Of course, the Renaissance had plenty of its own dark, but that's a whole other thing. There's poetry, there's music, there's art. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, some of the greatest poets emerged during that time. And so they were born with Pluto in Aquarius, because we're talking almost 250 years ago. So we're talking a very long time ago. So there will be those who are born with Pluto in Aquarius. So those will be the new, the children that you were talking about, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they're being born now.
Right. Okay.
And then there's us living in this time
Mm.
where we have seen, felt, experienced the structures that aren't working, whether they're our own internal structures or around us. And so art, poetry, art sort of belongs more to Leo, but as a reminder, I don't always teach so much astrology, but I think it's really relevant. When signs are opposite, Leo and Aquarius are opposite. When they're opposite, they're just working the same spectrum of learning from different sides. So you've got this highly creative Leo energy and this very progressive, independent Aquarian energy. And the idea is that they're working with each other. They're weaving together. So it's a very powerful time that we've entered in. And I know there's a lot going on in the chat, and I don't mean to ignore all of you, but I really want to talk to Ariana about this. So please forgive me for not engaging there. But this idea of the awakening and the uniting, these two words, awakening and uniting, are very Aquarian.
Okay.
Those are very Aquarian. And if we take the Pluto energy, and right now this month, a lot of planets need to pass through the gateway of Pluto. Mercury just passed through. We've got Mars and Venus will be next. And this idea of moving through this gateway of transformative energy and healing. What will it look like on the other side? That's what I think the essence of your work. I mean, I think this is what you've been building up to this whole time, all of these many years of teaching and training and coaching and guiding. And I've had a different path, but very similar in many ways, teaching through the 80s into the 90s, and then going off in a different direction, and then coming back around and, moving into this time. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about what is coming through for you, particularly this year. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have a sense of where the work is going as we move further into this era, I would love to know more, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so, and what's cool is what you're saying is just sort of affirmation or confirmation of what I'm sort of feeling, intuiting, and I always love that. you know,
Mhm.
so like the awakening, the uniting, and then you're like, yeah, that's what's happening. And I'm like, okay, good. So we're okay. um, so to me, I feel like this year, again, is really about awakening your own spirit, you know, spirit protector, steward. We're instinctively socially connected to the earth, and I think we need the earth in order to survive. So I think right now, like the big switch, though, what I've been speaking to for a while, and that's what I'm really committed to supporting this year for people, whether it's a one-on-one mentorship or some of the
Mhm.
other things that I do, is we have to we have to shift our healing paradigms, our healing circles,
Mhm.
to be also healing the earth at the same time. We have to be doing our healing in relationship with healing the earth.
Mhm.
And I had a big vision last fall about that, and I've been speaking to that. I spoke to it at Warwick's and that kind of stuff, and the this whole concept of the sacred circle.
Yes.
And we can hold different kinds of sacred circles, and you're holding your circles and already. And again, just how do we collaboratively, collectively, intuitively, kind of experiment with new ways to incorporate earth
Mhm.
into. So it could be something like I'm going to start doing in my coach mentor group is, you start your circle. If you have an ongoing circle, you could ask each person to bring something of the earth with them, maybe a blade of grass even, or a flower that they got, or a rose hip or something, and bring it to the meeting. And maybe the share is just that,
Mhm.
or just so there's a presence there and there's a moment of gratefulness and acknowledgement. The other piece is this piece about and I can feel my own little bit of shyness around it. This leadership piece is what's the thing it's time to step back into the world somehow.
Mhm.
And it can be small steps. It doesn't have to be grand.
Mhm.
But if you have a dream, dream it. Like Martin Luther King, he had a dream. He drew the picture of it. It maybe didn't happen in his lifetime, but it happened.
Mhm.
Um, and it inspired other people to have a dream. And my encouragement is whatever that dream is, if it's about other people, is again that we need the earth to have other people. So, maybe we can begin with prayers and conversations and inquiries with earth, like, what are you saying to us? And what's the small little thing that I can do to support? And, Mother Earth doesn't care about us, bottom line. I mean, she can just wipe us right off the planet. And she has her way of, you know, doing what she needs to do. And that's what she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it can feel overwhelming, but then the next piece is just to don't go it alone. Like
Right.
we've been hearing for a long time, the time of the lone wolf is over, and
Mhm.
it's been over. So, find your like-minded groups of people. And
Mhm.
COVID did a lot of the reshuffling around, right? Where some people found like, oh, this community really isn't mine anymore, or I
Mhm.
outgrew,
Mhm.
my friends, or
Mhm.
outgrew again. It's not a right or wrong. It's just like my values changed. And
Mhm.
I need to find a circle of people.
Yeah.
We're instinctively social animals. So we do, like, I was just listening to something the other day, like people that say they're lonely, like die 45%. I don't know. It was just like a huge statistic that
Mhm.
loneliness kills people.
Yes.
Um, so sorry if I'm a little bold today, but I'm
No, I
really
no.
passionate and hopeful, and
Yes.
I'm here to save the planet. If I can. So um
Exactly, just what Becky is saying, and I can't read it all because um, she's appreciating your question about the small, tiny piece that I can add. And, yeah, it's important to show up. And so, Ariana, what I want to say about what you're saying is there's an element of the Aquarian
You
energy.
tossing that coffee?
Oh, hold on, let me just, yeah. Sorry, it happens. There's a energy in Aquarius where often if someone has a strong Uranian element in their chart, Uranus is the planet associated with Aquarius, and or there's a strong Aquarian element, sometimes people can feel alone or different. And so what we have built into Aquarius is fascinating because the emphasis is to find your pod or find your group or find your circle. And
Yeah.
that circle can be diverse. Like this is a really diverse group of people here. Um, and so finding our circle is an important way of being. But it's also important to identify if I'm feeling different or alone, what is that about? And so, like, that's really what you're saying is offering that self inquiry and then moving to the planet because, we all live here. We are all a part of this. She may feel alone, but she doesn't because she knows she's not. But, how are we in relationship with her? Go ahead.
Oh, so I have two things. One is I got this long time ago during a session, and it was really clear that we don't want to approach Mother Earth like, oh, poor her. I
Mhm,
mean, she's right here, like you're
mhm,
right there. You are with me right now, like she's me.
mhm,
She's
mhm.
the and it anyway, like it almost went down a whole nother track on that. But we want, so if we have energy intention of like, oh, poor Earth, or oh, and it's in the
Right.
negative sort of, that's not going to help. So how do
Mhm.
I shift that? And again, where there's light, there's dark. I can
Yeah,
shift it.
yeah,
I can shift
yeah,
it. And so how
yeah.
do I shift that into a positive
Right.
imagination of health and well-being,
Mhm,
and faith that Mother Earth, she knows exactly what to do,
mhm.
and she will do it. So she's very unsentimental. I'm a rancher, so I know
Yeah,
from like that's a whole nother conversation.
right.
The other piece that I really wanted to offer here too, Denise, and see what you say about it as well, is the other really key thing is we can talk a lot about what we want to change,
Mhm,
and have good intentions. But if we're or people around us are living in a state of judgment,
mhm,
in a state of closure and conclusion,
mhm,
or hopelessness,
mhm,
or judgment of us, or all that stuff, like that's got to change. So the way to change is how to stop or break away from this part of our animal body
mhm,
that goes to the moral animal part that goes to judgment.
mhm,
That's the right and wrong. She's right, he's wrong. They're this, they're that.
mhm,
It's us, it's a them.
mhm.
That right there is the core of what needs to break, and it's really hard to do it by yourself.
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and so again, it's an interesting thing you bring up, and it's not an easy one because, and I do think you said something very early on that's a great place to start, which is to stay curious. Because I can only speak for myself, but if I'm feeling judgment or judgmental or critical, there's something that I'm potentially scared. And it may or may be a good thing. Like maybe I'm nervous about something for a good reason, but to self inquiry first, be curious with self first. If there's a field of energy around us that feels, and again, these are the groups that didn't work. I mean, I don't want to go into all the jobs that I've had in the past, but there's reasons why I didn't stay in them because it didn't feel right. The energy wasn't right. And so part of the path, and it's this very interesting blending. And actually, Pluto comes up several times because as Pluto moves through the different signs, as a generation is born, because Pluto can be there 12 years, 20 years. So generation is born during a Pluto sign. We're asked to bring to light the dark and the light, and we are meant to transform it. So, for those of us born with Pluto in Virgo, we'll just start with that. There can be a strong sense of judgment around, and that's kind of the shadow side of the Virgo. There's a shadow side for every sign. So, what we want to do is find our way to healing that within ourselves first, move into the groups that feel that we're being called to. And sometimes those groups are not necessarily everyone thinks the same way.
yeah, it's
They're
okay.
new. Yeah. Go ahead. You were going to
Oh
say
yeah, no,
something.
it's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to not, to
Yeah.
agree to disagree, whatever. Yeah, it's and that's a really good point. when we have a circle, it's not that we all have to agree on everything. It's that we
yeah,
are allow our own diversity.
exactly.
Something that happens in the circle might feel good to Jane, but it doesn't feel good to me. And that's
Right.
okay. Like like sometimes you do in a circle and you do a center exercise and everybody's like, I feel warm, I feel fuzzy. And like, I feel like I
I
gotta
don't feel, I
go.
feel like crap, or whatever. Yeah,
I'm scared. What,
yeah,
it's okay.
right.
And that's what's in the circle. That's one of the fundamental, most important things in a circle, is that you're creating an open space that's not judgmental, that doesn't make somebody feel like they're wrong because they're not feeling like everybody else.
Okay, that is really key. I really want to focus there because that I think is the key to this era.
Yeah.
And, as someone who's been teaching and holding circles, teaching how to hold circles, how to run circles, how to be a circle, how to be in a circle, that feels really important to me. How we create that, or how we create a sacred enough space. Because I think if we pull back to what you're saying about Mother Earth, is if we pull back a little bit and we understand that the sacredness of the circle, or the sacredness of the space, is coming up from the earth and down from the stars, for me, right? Like, so both, and I think for you too. That then, does judgment even fit into that sacredness? So I don't know what you have to say about that, but and again, I don't know how to
You
explain
can't,
that.
let's just
It's
put it
just a
this way.
feeling.
You can't have discovery if you're in judgment.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
You can't explore or find new ways or
Right.
new interpretations if you're in judgment. So
Right.
judgments is the end of, case closed,
Right.
gavel went down, it's over.
Right.
You can never change. That person can never change. It's
Right.
over. It's the right judgment has been passed. So that's why it's so there's another way to work with it, where you pull these opinions, and they're just really we're just story machines and interpretation opinion machines.
Mhm.
But the problem is we collapse them into conclusions and judgments. And so
Right.
that's where I'm kind of there's a course I'm thinking of for that. And I actually was just thinking, like, maybe you and I should do it together.
Oh,
But
wow. Maybe we should. That would be fun. I
yeah.
I just I feel like your experiences, and we didn't even go into all of the background you have. I mean, it's just extensive. But to come from that place of how can we even just start with that basic non-judgment, and what does that feel like? It really brings me back to, again, in our astrology charts individually, whether it's everywhere in the chart, but again, the shadow side is there for a reason, and so we want to make sure we examine that. So whether, like, I'm it's everywhere, so it's not like I can really highlight or pinpoint one thing, but what I do know is that with Aquarian energy, with Uranian energy, sometimes we're drawn way out into something much, much better, a much bigger perspective. But then we have to come back to here and find our way back to that. And I feel like that's a part of your path, and part of what you teach is that you can help people bring themselves out into this awakened earth energy. And then somehow we have to build that bridge between the world we live in and the world that we can see or feel. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of language to be explored in that, right? Like, how do we, because it is intuitive, and so it's not linear, but it's really like there's, me, my original self, who I was born in this, we're all born into this world with our own unique way of seeing and perceiving and
Yeah.
storytelling. And then Mother Nature wants diversity. She doesn't want everybody to be the same. So yes, the key is who are you and what do you care about, and what's your unique way of being and expressing and seeing. And to be able to learn how to do that without, insecurity and doubt, or worrying about what everybody else is going to think, because that's the most thing that we do, is we
Yeah.
spend ridiculous amounts of time worrying about what everybody's going to think. And so, yeah, it does begin within, and like that harsh, I'm the only person that can change, and I can change the way I allow or disallow other people to treat me.
Mhm.
And yeah, having that deeper connection to, and so, yeah, see, it's hard to find the words, right? But
It
so I'm
is.
working with my hands now, which is what I do.
Right,
So
right, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so,
We're
um,
forming
and
chi.
and there's, yeah, so there's like the body of my work is like
Yeah.
navigating between these worlds. So this world of the natural world, or I call it the underworld, but maybe that's not right, because then sometimes see that as, again, a negative or something else. But it's all of the mystery.
It's all of it.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then this is the linear, logical, cognitive
Mhm.
mind space. So that's between the worlds, and so our mind lives in the navigation of how to, what everybody else is going to think, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And
Mhm.
then there's the intuitive self, which is just like,
Mhm.
hey, we got to do something. Like, we don't have time for that right now. And so how do you balance those two?
Mhm.
And how do you learn? And so learning how to listen to your intuitive body first.
Yes.
Your animal body is your, as I say, your animal body is your first responder. So it responds to everything first. It remembers everything, but this is also this is where you begin. And this is, so learning to go to your animal body to get the information of, how you're really feeling, and are you safe and you're not safe, and all of those things. And then learning how to utilize this cognitive thing to support a new place or action where you want to go,
Right.
but not the other way around. So
Right.
most of the time, this mind is saying, no, can't, you can't do that. Like, you're not going to make enough money if you do that.
Right.
How many people don't do what you really want to do because, oh, you're not going to make enough money?
Mhm.
Well, that's right. What? So we could go on and on, but yeah, so it's learning how to, what part of your animal self, mind, body, spirit, are you listening to?
Yes.
And how do we bring the mind, body, spirit of ourself into that unity? And when we are in that unity, that's when we're connected
Exactly.
to the
It's
whole.
just so, I have to just say, this is just so delicious because I don't normally weave this much astrology, but it's like you're, this is what I want to say to you, Ariana. Everything we've just talked about and everything you've just articulated, these are the next 20 years.
Mm,
These are what we're really working with because, and if we think about it, again, Aquarius is an air sign. It's a mental sign. It's the mind.
okay.
Pluto is associated with the water, the depth, the mystery, the intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you just said, like in a nutshell. And then right now, for the next couple of years, we have Uranus in Taurus. And this new moon, by the way, in Aquarius on Friday. So starting back or coming back full circle, no pun intended, to the moon. Uranus and the new moon, which is the sun and the moon together, are square exactly for this new moon. So Uranus and Taurus says, what is your animal body feeling? What is your body? Taurus is that earth element. It is the body. It is the sensual body. It
Mm-hmm.
is what is shaken up in there. What do you feel? Trust that. Or if you don't trust it, find a way to trust it. But the Uranian energy is the awakening energy. So
Mm-hmm.
again, we have the body, the intuition, the mind, and with Saturn in Pisces, which is involved, in terms of how this is all working now, we have, the soul and the spirit. So it's all there. It's everything you've just described is the astrology of our time and it's what we're being shown right now and it's where we're going. So we'll have to transcribe that because it was brilliant. You can put it in your workshops and then you'll know that you're right on the note of everything. So I want to just say, because I know we need to close. I mean, we're over the hour. Sometimes we'll go to 11:11. Just if we go over, we might just go to 11:11. But I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Is there anything else you want to share before we end this conversation? We'll have another one, but
No, I think that was really, thank you for helping me to articulate,
Mhm.
you know, the to find that articulation of where we are going and what's up with that.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're definitely going to transcribe it because I could feel it just moving through you in a way that was very Aquarian, which is, again, it's hard to grasp sometimes because it's so full and rich and there's a tapestry there. the energy, and again, this is something I just want to bring out with your work, is that it is very earth oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I remember being in your workshop and how you use the body to really ground and center. That is really helpful. If we're going to be in a time where there's a lot of Aquarian energy, yes, our mind, we need our mind, we need our intelligence, we need to be discerning, all those things, but we definitely need to be in our bodies and we need to stay connected to the earth. And, it's interesting about these storms too. This weekend, all of well, maybe not, I don't know how far up into Washington, but certainly, the West Coast here in the United States, just pounding, particularly in your area, really coming in with and one of the things that I, growing up in the Bay Area, it rained and we had storms, but I don't remember it being like this. The earth is definitely has a lot more to say than she has at least in my past, at least how I see it. Now, I don't know, maybe that's just my perception. But yeah, that's what I'm.
I think the thing that's changing is the frequency
Mhm,
around the world as well. I mean, there's definitely been extremes in the
mhm,
past, but the level and the frequency and things like fires where there never were fires, or tornadoes where there never were
mhm,
tornadoes, like
mhm,
that. Yeah, there's definitely some,
mhm.
you know, I mean, if you can imagine, like, she's just like, she's just like pissed.
Busy. It's funny. I have to say this. When you said the word frequency, okay, this is how like out there I am most of the time. The frequency, I'm like, oh, the frequency, like the radio dial frequency. So but you meant like the frequency, like how many there are. But I think actually both are true. That
Yeah.
there's an element of like obviously the frequency meaning the number of, but there's also the frequency of like dialing it up.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously here in California, we've seen things we've never, ever, ever, ever seen
Yeah,
before.
you
And
had tornado warnings in your weather forecast. Did you see that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like the fire thing, those
Yeah.
fires were unreal. Of course,
Mhm.
some of that was quite a bit of that was man-made, but
Yeah.
I think the key to really um stay in that imagination of what is she trying to say? Like,
Yes.
what are you trying to show me?
Yes.
And what are you trying to say, and what's the tone or the quality of that? And so it's, everything is, I mean, all these are opportunities to
Mhm.
awaken it's awakening something in us. And what
Yes.
is it that it's
Yes.
awakening,
Yes.
and what are we choosing
Mhm.
to do with that awakening?
I love that. And I want to say one more thing. I have a teacher, an elder here who always reminds me of this. She always says, imagination. I, Magi, nation. The
Wow.
Magi being the wise,
Or
right? The
yeah.
wise seers. So
Mm,
I, as a wise seer, gathering with others.
nice.
So imagination.
I love that. That's
So that
great.
counts too,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to end us for now. I'm just going to stop the recording. So, and then
I
I'm going to
read
shift.
one. Can I read a little
Yes.
poem from
Yes.
Mother Teresa? Actually, I
Yes.
read the poem. Okay.
Yeah. We welcome everything. You want to share more? I'm good.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Okay. Well, as you do that, um,
Sometimes poems will come to me. So yeah.
that's
Okay.
because Ariana's highly creative. Go ahead.
Okay. This was written by Mother Teresa. Um, People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway.
Mm.
Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People need help, but may attack you if you help them. Help people anyway.
Mm.
Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. And give the world the best you have anyway. That's optimism.
Yes, it is. And perfect. I so appreciate the way that brings us into conclusion. And I really want to thank everyone here holding this sacred circle here with us live, and then everyone who's listening later. Remember, you're a part of this circle as well. So with that, I'm just going to turn off the recording.